you can afford debt, take it. It's other people's money. Remember, a lot of companies are actually built on other people's money. They're built on debt, right? And you walk through, if your product is solid, you walk through that journey and you will recover from that debt eventually and turn your profit. So if you can afford the debt, take it, especially if the deal is very good for you at that circumstance.
Hello, good people. And thank you for coming back to our very humble podcast called Money Tales. So today's guest is a very unique guest who we kind of approached in a very interesting way. But anyway, I don't want to digress too much. I would like him to introduce himself and to also tell me which name he would like me to call him as, because I sometimes call him Munga, I sometimes call him Karugah. So please introduce yourself.
My name is Francis Karugah. You can call me Frankie.
Okay.
So if you call me Munga, I know I'm in trouble. If you call me Karugah, I know you've possibly only known me professionally.
Okay.
But my name is Francis Karugah, and you can call me Frankie
Okay.
for the rest of, and wherever, really. Yeah.
Okay. So tell us about yourself. What don't we know about this amazing Frankie?
It depends on what you've read, but my my name is Frankie. I'm a advertising man. I'm a storyteller. I solve business problems by storytelling. I started storytelling on blogs, then moved into advertising to tell stories through that. And now I'm currently selling stories through influencers. So I'm currently the vice president of Indahash. Indahash is the world's leading influencer management platform. And we help businesses connect to the right influencers through technology. So before, it used to be a lot of human bias, where you think someone can deliver for your brand. But now we've brought in technology, we have all these filters. So we help you select the right person before you actually kick off your campaign. And data is really important. I'm excited by this journey because I now have to apply tech to an industry that is currently, all over the place. There are no standards. So, and applying and streamlining this whole industry with technology is really exciting. And we've been in Kenya now for a year. It's been a fantastic journey so far.
Wow. And how did you get into this space? And I was telling him before, like, my audience is mainly Gen Z. So how did you get into this space?
When in my previous posting in advertising, one of the pain points we had was a client wants to run an influencer marketing campaign, but then there's a lot of guesswork in terms of who's the person we should work with? Do they really stand for the values that we have? And more importantly, does their content align with what the brand's purpose is?
Okay.
And so it used to be a lot of guesswork. You'll be like, oh, okay, I saw him one time talk about this. Maybe he can do it better. But now with tech, we're able to now tell based on historical data and current data that this person is actually the right fit for the brand based on the filters we've put in terms of what does the brand want to achieve, who's the audience the brand wants to speak to, more importantly.
Sure.
So and what's the status of that person's account, engagement rates, follower safety. Is this person buying bots? How does their platform, match up? So, and for me, that was a pain point when I was in my previous posting. So, and this job came up and they explained to me what they're doing. I felt that this was the next leap because there's an actual need for the service. And this need and the need for that service is what's going to now take us to the next level in the industry for influencer marketing, because peer-to-peer marketing will not go away anytime soon. We just need to make it work for both the creator and the brands.
Wow. I feel like we're pulling off the curtains, guys. This is the first time we have the actual people over here. Oh my gosh, that's super impressive.
Yeah.
Because there's a lot of, as creators, we always feel like there's a lot of gatekeeping, there's a lot of this, there's a lot of that.
Yes.
But like, is this going to help with that?
Actually, the gatekeeping is based on human bias.
Okay.
So human bias has been the way a lot of the decisions have been made. So I know someone has delivered on a campaign before. So I trust that they will deliver. Maybe they're diligent with their timelines, their content is clean, is crisp. So I always fall back to that person as a choice for my campaigns. But now with technology, I'm able to then have a wider scope and go beyond the norm of what I've been used to in terms of creators.
Yeah.
And for us, we're excited because some of the campaigns we've executed so far, you look at those campaign profiles and campaign lists, and you're like, who is this? And that's the question we want to remove from the influencer marketing conversations. We want you to stop saying, who is this? And look at the data. Look at the data. Does the data mean that this person can deliver for your brand? Based on what you want to achieve and what the platform has given you, can this person deliver? Then you stop asking the question of, who is this? I've never seen them. The target audience, especially if you're in a decision-making space. So that's what we are doing. And that gatekeeping, I was in a meeting last week, and a virtual call for a briefing for a campaign that's going to kick off. And someone in the comments said, in the chatbot said, oh, how come there are no celebrities in this campaign, or are they in another briefing? And we're like, no, you're the guys doing the campaign.
Yeah.
Like, we've used tech to find you guys. And it was validation that actually there is need to constantly go beyond the norm. And another interesting thing is we're going to build the pie this way. The pie can only get bigger when we have more creators feeding into the industry, and not, you want them to not feel disenfranchised because they don't know anyone in an agency or brand world. You've been found because your work that you're doing is good and it resonates with different brand values and different brand audiences.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh my God. Hongera for breaking status quo. Finally. Woo!
We're trying.
It's been such a long time, and it's been such a complaint in the, of course, I mean, I'm not that much of a big content creator, but like we've been in that space.
Yes.
And it's been the same complaints and conversations.
Exactly. And it's the same thing as I used to deal with as a leader in the industry. Everyone would, you go to a space and you introduce yourself and what you do, and guys are like, by the way, my cousin is an influencer. Can you put them on and you constantly hear all these things. Oh, the only reason this person is in this campaign is because I know so and so. And those conversations used to really dampen my mood every day. And finding a solution that can change that narrative has been exciting for me, and for me to progress that, not just in Kenya, but across other African countries.
Yeah, it's bringing equity.
Exactly.
Yes.
And in fact, I always tell people in my presentations, we want to bring democracy to the industry. Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So let's go back to the background. What education background does one need to get into this space, or does it really matter?
Well, the thing is, my background is business development.
Wow. Okay.
So I got into the industry because I was bored by it, and I used to write a lot. So that's how I got into the industry as a trainee copywriter.
Okay.
So got in very young. I got in at 21 going into 22. And at that point, I'd not had a serious job, odd errands here and there, making 1,000 bob here, 500 bob here, enough money to get you around. At that point, you're young, you don't have a lot of things to need money for. And I started off as a trainee copywriter on 25,000 shillings. And I got into the industry. At that point, I had a really good boss. I'd say boss, because he was many levels above me, but I used to sit in his office, and he guided me a lot into the industry, and I fully understood what my role meant in that setting. And I was able to really work towards getting myself better in terms of writing copy and being an ideas person.
Okay.
But more importantly, being an ideas person for ideas that solve problems. So if someone wants to sell a product, you have to then go and start thinking. He's the one who told me to always think about the consumer. You can't create without understanding the consumer pain points. So, and that's how I got into start sharpening my skills. Years later, I got into digital advertising because I used to be a writer.
Okay.
On a blog. And one day they were like, you must know how to do it because you're constantly putting up all these things. And then I started being trained on it. But then the training was twofold. So I was being trained on digital marketing because it was a completely new field. And I was being trained on leadership and running a team because I'd never run myself. I used to still live at home, by the way.
Okay.
So I was still a baby in a sense, but it worked out. And then I had to put in a crazy amount of hours to get it done, and I had to drop out of school. But then, because I figured this is, if this is where everyone is heading to, let me focus completely on it.
Okay.
And I had the right tools at that point in terms of support. I used to live at home. I had a series of bosses who really made sure that they were always available for questions. I ask a lot of questions. They help me remove that thing at the back of your head that always assumes things. They would always say, ask, ask, ask. So I've never shied away from asking questions, because questions give you the absolute clarity on things.
Yeah.
And they supported me across different disciplines at that point. And I took it and ran with it.
So tell me about some of the skill sets then that, came up as you went along, or some of the skill sets somebody would need to get into this space.
Well, number one, I don't know if you can teach tenacity, but
okay, it comes with experience.
Yes, I used to burst into this guy's office and say, "What the?" And he'd be like, "Relax, relax fast. It's advertising. It's not. You're not.
It's not that deep.
It's not that deep." So, and he'd give me scenarios of a situation he was in, then how he ended up getting over it, the skill to learn decipher bullshit. So basically, people could tell you all manner of things, and I would sometimes take them really personally.
Okay.
And he'd be like, no, listen to what needs to be done.
Okay.
Also understand your role in some of the mistakes that have led you here. How do you prevent them in the future? How do you also help other people navigate away from those situations? So listening to understand. You need to understand things very well, and that's where the questioning came into play. I asked so many questions.
Yes.
And then he always told me, do not argue if you don't understand it.
Okay, that's a good one.
Do not argue if you don't understand it. Always make sure that you fully understand what's going on. And then the research bit now came into play because of the understanding. Because for you to understand, you need to go into a lot of research. The questioning bit is really important.
Okay.
And then being an organized person and understanding the value of time, because time does not belong to us.
True.
So the value of time now started being a thing that I completely value. So, and I value other people's time. So that's something I also learned from him. And also making decisions that, are very painful, but they have to be made for progress to be achieved. And that messed me up for a while, because I felt like I was being very cold.
Yeah.
But then I learned how to couch. Is it couch? Well, there's the word couch, or flavor the decision
okay.
in a way that doesn't leave a bitter peel, bitter taste in people's mouths, and also leaves me with a clean conscience as well.
Okay.
But that was something I learned, for over a long time, because we're human.
Yeah.
And one of emotion is anger emotion, and the attachment emotion comes into play a lot in our decision-making skills as well. You have to learn how to balance them both.
Okay.
Something I still learn. I'm not saying I'm completely there, but it's something, yeah. And the last bit was, you can learn every day, and you can also unlearn every day.
True.
So, and in light of new information, you'd always say, now that you know this, what are you not going to do?
Sure.
Yes.
Sure.
Yeah.
No, interesting.
Yeah.
Interesting takeaways.
The interesting thing is, because they were way older than me. So they were, most of them were in their 50s and 40s, well accomplished. They've done a lot of things. And I used to be like the baby around them.
Yes.
And I was so young.
Yeah.
I was so clueless. And they'd always say, come. No. you shouldn't have sent that email, but you've sent it. So now let's let's deal. Let's deal.
Yeah.
So, someone would text you and say, I think I need to see you tomorrow morning because
Mhm.
of da da da. I need to guide you on something. They would send me articles. They made sure I was in the right rooms from a training perspective, not just here,
Mhm.
abroad. Connect me to people, say, I think you
Mhm.
need to speak to this person.
Yeah.
And I'd always make time and have my ears ready to listen. So, and the other thing is, I'm a very inquisitive person.
Yeah.
So, and they were, one of them actually, used to tell me that inquisitive nature, you need to harness it to curiosity that delivers a solution.
Okay.
So consistently, he was he's still a very good friend,
Mhm.
but there are times I would be like, this guy is so difficult to deal with.
Yeah.
But years later, I realized that was the best thing I could have ever gotten at that
Sure.
age. It was a
Sure.
very strong foundation.
Yeah. It
Yeah.
feels like you were mentored by very strong people
Very strong people, very
in the
strong
industry.
men and women.
Yes.
The women now, what I loved about it was they would, one in particular is a very good friend of mine.
Yes.
One day she came and said, your mom and I are the same age. I was like,
No
what?
way.
And she was like, but now I'm not your mother. I'm here to make sure
Mm.
that you make the mistakes you need to make,
Mhm.
but those mistakes don't break you.
Yeah.
So, and she would always call me and say, so how are you doing? And we
Yeah.
have the best time.
Yeah.
And every time she calls me now, she's like, do you have an hour? Because this conversation is an hour. And because we're no longer in the same industry.
Yes.
When we meet up, we usually write things down that we need to talk about.
Otherwise, you'll not cover everything.
It's like, oh, 5 hours later, she's like, oh my goodness, we've gone into so many tangents.
Yeah.
Yeah, but it's important that those life lessons, I'm privileged to have all those people still in my life helping me guide my way through, because no one has a master plan.
True.
Right? We learn from other people's journeys.
Yes.
I still make a shitload of mistakes.
Yes.
But yeah.
Yeah. I mean, there's so many key takeaways and important points you've highlighted from just the story, the intro story. And that's really important. And I feel like as young people, now that you're now much older,
Yeah.
do you feel like the challenges that people are experiencing in the workforce with like the Gen Zs, the millennials, the
Yeah.
different age groups, do you feel like some of them are not open to some like that journey? Like you've talked of progressive growth.
Yeah.
And people want, you want to be
Instant
VP
gratification.
tomorrow and you're from uni,
Yeah. Oh, well, here's the thing. The internet has obviously made instant gratification a thing.
Okay.
Because you can wake up being a student and go to bed being a global sensation.
True.
And by the end of the week, you're everywhere, right? And if you play your cards right, or if your whatever has made you a global sensation works out, you could end up becoming very wealthy, not necessarily with a lot of experience, but wealth, right? Well, not even wealth, rich, because wealth and being rich are very different things.
Indeed, yeah.
And I find a lot of people chase being rich, but they forget that being rich is something that can be taken away. Being wealthy comes with you're baked into resilience.
Yeah.
There's a network that ensures that wealth is maintained.
True.
There is a journey that's been mapped out, and there are people constantly thinking of how to make sure that wealth goes for a very long time. So the internet has contributed to a lot of people seeking that instant gratification, even in the office. I didn't buy my first car until I was 27.
Oh, okay.
And I bought a Nissan Tida. And my friends used to call it the school bus. Because it became the car that used to bus us around. Became the one for tunaenda wapi. And back then we didn't have Uber as a service or any of these mobility apps as a service. So we used to have a traditional cab guy.
Yeah.
So you're like, okay, we're going to Karen, who's driving today? So that was my TIDA until now. Uber came in the country as a service, and I think they had TIDAs as one of the spec vehicles.
Yeah.
And now you'd go to places and guys are like, apanda hizo zinaekangwa hapo nje. Hiyo haingiangi huku, back outside. So I was like, oh, maybe it's safe for an upgrade. But then at that point, I've never been really attached to a lot of material, flashy things.
Yeah.
And one thing, the beauty of it is because I think I was exposed to that at a relatively young age.
Mhm.
So it wasn't fancy. It wasn't something I used to wake up and say, oh my God, I want to drive this car.
Yeah.
I never wanted flashy jeans or being my Instagram to look a certain way. It's still not an ambition I have because I've been content with whatever life gives me at that point.
Yeah.
Right. And I learned to live with it. So what happens now in the workplace is you find people who don't want to understand the journey of a slow burn career, because a slow burn career can never be taken away from you.
True.
You have baked in crazy experience into it. And then you have a generation that has decided that these guys want instant gratification. So we'll always use and discard. So they always see them as temporary placeholders in the organization, and therefore they just leave a certain roles for them, and they don't do career paths. They don't say, okay, you've joined us today. In the next 6 months, this is the learning and development plan we have for you, and this is where we want you to be. It does happen in some places. It doesn't happen in most places because they don't see that person lasting that long, so they don't want to invest in that person that long, because the thinking is, I'll do all this for this person, and then in a year they just disappear, and they go away with all my knowledge. It needs to be a meeting of minds, and I feel like people my age and much older need to go back to the old school way of building careers and organizations. Don't build organizations and careers on fickleness, right? And go into a culture of baking in mentorship into every senior position. Right now, even the senior leaders now, they're always also looking outside, because everyone, at my age, I have friends who are driving, crazy cars. If I wasn't content, I'd be constantly looking. You get into a space, and the next thing you want to do is be like Jambi and her big car. So I'm looking out for the next role. So I don't care about building a brand or building a strong base for whatever role I'm in. And that's something that needs to be collectively worked on by both sets of generations.
I agree. Actually, you've really pieced it up well. Yeah, but that brings me to, let me take you back to something you had said.
Yeah.
You said that when you had started your journey as a young person, you needed to drop out or something like that.
Yeah.
How did you even do that? Like,
my folks only found out when graduation season came on.
their son is not going to be in the podium.
But now we're in a good space.
Oh my.
And I guess the value that I got from the 3 years I was in school still delivers for me.
Okay.
Because there are things from a business perspective that now I'm able to apply. And also I was able to apply as I was being coached into leadership and getting to start a unit, because I started a unit from scratch.
Okay.
Within a large organization. So if I didn't have those fundamentals, I would have been, I still had a lot of support, but I would not have been able to quickly learn concepts and run with them if I didn't have that 3-year foundation in school. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And did you think of going back and finishing, or you just?
So I just added short courses over the years to just complement now the industry I was in.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I like that, because it's also a reflection that, okay, at the end of the day, the foundation was important, but it doesn't necessarily inform the success that you've had. Like, it should have come because you were in the spaces that gave you the opportunities to have that success.
And sharpening concepts is really important, because and practical knowledge is also really, really good. But there are some things that you need to step back, especially in the areas of personal development. I had a coach, a career coach. Was it a leadership coach, not career coach?
Yes.
A leadership coach. I think he was in Aga Khan University then.
Mm.
And I had him for about 9 months, and it was paid for by the
Wow.
organization. And this
Wow.
person now would sit sometimes in my meetings and just observe how I interact with people, how I
Yes.
deliver things, and then would have a different sessions now to now unpack all that. And that
True.
changed a lot of things.
Okay.
Yeah. So
Okay.
you can't just learn everything with the same people. You need to sometimes step back,
Mhm.
and relate and have someone, look from outside inside. Yeah.
Yes.
Yes, yes, yes.
Yeah.
And help you now navigate better.
And the changing of also organizations, does
Yes.
that help as well?
Uh,
Experiencing different.
so, well, because I worked in the same organization for 14 years. That's the other thing.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I only changed jobs like last year, for the first time in my adult life. So my
What?
whole adult life, I've been in one organization.
What?
And thankfully, changing from that to now being in a smaller, well, not small, I wouldn't say it's actually a large organization in terms of revenue,
Mm.
but smaller teams,
Mm.
teams all over the universe. All
All over
over
the
the
world.
world, not the
Yeah, no
universe.
problem.
And we don't have aliens in our organization. uh, it's interesting because then you're executing a lot more roles, from admin, legal, commercial, being owner of product,
Mhm.
and being the face of the organization.
Mhm.
It's much more refreshing because I have a lot of support,
Yes.
but more importantly, I'm able to now realize the value of technology,
Oh, yeah.
because I can't be able to do all those things if I didn't have a strong tech unit supporting all this. And for me as well, the tech language, the language of sales, the language of software as a service, it's something that I have to quickly learn.
Mm.
So it's a completely different universe. And now more than ever,
Mhm.
the time management skills I learned are applied here, because if I don't manage my time well,
Yes.
I'll be chasing the wind for weeks
Mhm.
if I don't manage well.
I can understand that.
Yeah.
And talk about leadership as a young person, actually, now that you mentioned it as well. How was that? Must have been a
Oh,
challenge
let
trying
me
to
tell.
get buy-in from these seniors in the
I'm
organizations.
I'm happy, and I'm happy that they bought into the concept of what I was doing.
Okay.
So every time I'd go in with ideas, they would then listen, then now start removing the hubris from it, because they're like, ah, this one, at you're dreaming. But I was able to get a lot of support from them at that point. But it's tough. Managing yourself and others and a product, it's very, very tough.
Okay.
There are days I would wake up and be like, yeah, I can't do this today.
Yeah.
And there are days you'd go to bed, your mind is racing. And the days you'd wake up and you're like, yes, this is it. This is what I want to do for the rest of my life.
Yeah.
So you just have to learn how to balance it. And that balance is almost 100% mental. Without it, it gets crazy. Your physical gets affected. You break down consistently. You're constantly sick. The time I was very, very ill.
Oh,
Like
burnout-ish.
burnout. I was getting to habits that weren't contributing, mentally and emotionally, to mentally and physically, to my well-being, because I thought those were the coping mechanisms I should adopt.
Sure.
But you learn how to now get into what are the things I need to hold on to, and the things I need to let go.
Yeah.
And that's how it is. But leadership is tough. Even at this age, it's
Yeah.
still tough. And I don't think it gets easier. So sometimes when I see um, leaders walking away from what is seen as a very successful career or very successful organization, and they only say that I need to reset and da 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 da. I completely understand, because there are people I look at and I'm like, oh my god, if I was in that job, I would be, I my, I would be on a drip, you know. Because it's human to take on, there's only so much you can take on as a human being, and no one is superhuman.
Yeah.
So I completely understand them. And the balance, what is the perfect life, between family and friends, da da da. And I look at some people in leadership and I can imagine how their phones look like. Everyone wants something from you.
Yeah.
And maybe sometimes you just want someone to sit with, have a nice glass of wine, and just chapa stories that don't have to be about work,
Yes.
So leadership is not easy.
Yeah.
And when people say leadership is a calling, it is a calling,
It
because
is a calling.
having to, lead a group of people, like 40 people with different personalities, different backgrounds, different cultures, and every day they're coming to you for solutions, you can lose your mind, because you even forget. Sometimes I used to say, who's solving my problems?
Right?
Who's solving my
Right?
problems? Yeah. Who do I go to when I have all these things? So
Yeah.
it's still, even now, it's a balance. Yeah.
So you're a people leader or you're a thought leader?
Both.
You're both.
Yes.
Okay.
So I
Okay.
prefer to the people leader. This time I was obsessed with it.
Yeah.
It wears you down completely. So
Yes.
I realized if I become a thought leader in the organization, then you become the solution person.
Yes.
You become the person who's able to quickly, sort out bullshit and lead people to the right direction. Or sometimes being able to identify who are the right people to do certain things.
True.
Now that was better because people don't come with as much baggage when you're the thought
Exactly.
leader.
Yeah.
When you're the people leader, hey, my God. So Leo, my mom said I should come to Jobo like at 11 because their fundis coming to the house. I'm like, you're 27 years old. You have a job.
Yeah.
You have a contract that's not between your mother, the organization, and yourself. Why are you bringing your mother into this conversation?
Yes.
And why should I care? But then you have to balance it and say, okay, so I mean, you've already made the decision you're going to stay home until 11, but please let's go back to the basics, So yeah, I sometimes wonder how people balance having kids, having these jobs.
Yeah.
I always feel like if I got kids, I would not work for at least 5 years. Because I'd be running mad. I'll be those people that come to work in a dirty t-shirt.
Oh yeah.
'Cause you're like,
No, it's understandable, by the way.
well, being around parents, and I understand
Yeah.
sometimes. I used to joke that I used to be like, oh my God, how can a child go outside the house looking like that with that half undone hair? Now being around people with kids, I'm like, I completely understand. And it's okay. Life is tough and there are too many decisions to be made.
Yeah.
And if the decision this morning is to go to the supermarket and your hair looks like that and you've refused for it to be undone, imagine, let's go.
You.
You do you, let's go. Let's go. Yeah.
No, oh my gosh, I totally understand that.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness. But yeah, it's tough. It's tough having all those hats, balancing everything.
Yeah.
And now with you, a new organization, a new business, a new
Yes.
venture.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
It's
It can
tough.
really, so from that point of view, so I would assume or imagine that
Yeah.
it's not fully on site. I hope it's
Yes.
hybrid or remote of some
So
sort. How does it?
we share an office.
Okay.
But we are there maybe twice a week max.
Okay.
But 90% of the time we're remote.
Oh.
So from whatever location you're in, which helps a lot because I'm a homebody. So now that I've realized I'm a homebody, so I like sitting at home because I'm able to accomplish so many things before 11. Then I'll give myself a break between 11 and 1 and then go back from 1:30 to about 5. So I'm able to now balance it. When I'm home, I'm really into it. Then when I come to town, maybe so do Wednesdays and Fridays or Tuesdays and Fridays. I'm able to then now run around for the physical interactions I need to do for the different parts of the business. Those now I make time to ensure that I have the conversation and then I'll go back home by 3, 4, then clear out what needs to be done from a task perspective.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, interesting,
Yeah.
interesting. I like that. It's better to be able to manage, or rather remove the headaches of traffic, remove the headaches of.
You know, the thing about commuting is, so I don't, well, some people consider it Nairobi. I don't consider it Nairobi. I don't live in Nairobi. So the commute can get nuts because there are so many variables that things happen.
Yeah.
About a month ago, I was going for a dental appointment at 8:30. I got to the dentist at 11:30. I had done everything possible on the roads. I had gone at some point.
Oh my.
I was on Langata Road. I was back on Mombasa Road. I was in Upper Hill. Like I was all over the place trying to get to the dentist.
Yeah.
A trip that takes me 20 minutes took me so many hours. So
Yeah.
it's unpredictable. So the commute, so you waste maybe an hour and a half trying to get to the
Yeah.
office. Then there's an hour and a half to factor in as you're going back home. And sometimes going back home is even more hectic.
True.
So you lose maybe 3-4 hours in a day
Mm-hmm.
because you have lunches, all those things.
Mm-hmm.
Then in an office setting, you walk in, people want to talk to you consistently.
Yeah.
You're in constant mode of talking. And you'd get home at 5, you can't even remember. Did I speak to them today or did I speak to them yesterday? But it's a fine balance. So you have
Yeah.
to, this hybrid model really has
It
delivered. It
works.
delivers on productivity and balances the emotional as well.
Mm-hmm.
Because again, sitting at home alone for so many hours
Mm-hmm.
it gets you detached from how to interact with people.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I would have guessed
physically.
you're an extrovert though, but it kind of sounds like you're a bit
I mean, the industry forces you to be, you know how to switch between the two. Yes, because then
okay.
you're constantly talking to people.
Mm-hmm.
And in our industry, if you don't understand humans, your work will always be not as
Struggling.
great.
Yeah.
So you balance between the two.
Okay.
Yeah. In fact, when
Okay.
people say, this is my friend Frankie, and I'm quiet, and they're like, oh, he's so quiet. They're like, oh, well, give him an hour.
Oh my.
he boots up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now, because I'm in a content creator, I have to ask
Yes.
for, please pull the curtains and tell us what we are doing wrong or what we are doing right and we continue to do. Help content creators today as a person who's been in this
Well,
digital space and in the new age of
yeah,
technology. What are some of the things you'll be looking out for
it's
that
just,
could help us
it's
be
the
better?
biggest thing is authenticity.
Okay.
Yeah. If you're not authentic, everything will fall apart. You can only kick the can down the road so far, it will
Yeah.
catch up with you. Authenticity is the source of being a great, consistent content creator.
I thought
Right?
you'd say things like niche down.
No.
Niche down. How are we selected? Oh,
No.
authenticity is a good
Authenticity.
one though.
Because then if you're authentic to your passion points, to your associations, to your own values, then no one can take that away from you, and that's unique to you.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So now what to see is people who want to copy what success looks like.
Mm-hmm.
And then after 6 months, you can't continue doing it.
Mm-hmm.
It wears you down. Then you find that, yeah, 6 other people who also took the same master plan.
Yeah.
So it doesn't work for you, right?
Mm.
Authenticity is key. And also remember, you're not selling people a product. You're trying to sell them a philosophy. You're trying to convince them
Mm-hmm.
that this is the thing to be doing. This is what you need to be buying. You're trying to tell them that this has worked for me and this is how it has worked for me. So you're not a billboard, right? You're not that ad segment on TV for 15 minutes, right? You're speaking to humans, you're speaking to your peers, you're speaking to brothers and sisters and daughters and wives and husbands, right? And you try to convince them this is the way to do it. So, and you can't do that if you're not authentic. And your authentic voice will always come through. And people can always see through all this BS, that people couch some of their pitches too,
Yeah.
So being authentic actually does work. I always look at some creators. I don't want to name names, but I look
Of
at some
course, yeah.
creators and I'm like, oh my God, you have such a rich tapestry of life. You're showing us what you're feeding your children with such love. When you have a bad day, you actually say, "Me, I've had a bad day," because that's life, right? Life is not always peaches and skin perfect. Pictures and always your bone straight wig, or as a man your suits are pressed to the gods. Life is that's not how it is. That's a caricature of the perfect life. But the perfect life is based on simplicity. It's based on understanding that you can't always win, understanding that a loss will happen, and working through that loss. So, and I look at some of this, one of my favorite creators lives her life in such authenticity. And if things don't work out, she actually says why it didn't work out, and she will move past it. And also what she has learned from it and what she has been able to feed. So that's what life is. And if you look at her following, it's crazy. She has those people that can actually go to the streets and defend her. So that's what authenticity does for content creators. And that's the base. That's if you're building a foundation, that's 80% of what you need to build into, to use to build that foundation.
And now that you mentioned being a billboard, I would say, is there any downside to like being a content creator who has like so many not ads, but like you support so many partnerships?
Yes.
Because I'm sure you've seen there's some who like today will be Uga, tomorrow will be this, tomorrow will be like, it's always like back to back to back to back to back. Is there a challenge normally? Does it present in a negative way
if
sometimes?
it's authentic and built around good stories. Remember, why do people go to the internet? People go to the internet to be entertained.
Yes.
As simple as that.
And unwind.
Entertained and get their mind off things.
Yes.
If it's always tied to a good story and it's authentic, even if you sell me 50 things on your Insta stories, I won't get bored because I know it will work, right? And like this creator I'm talking about, so there's a day. So my niece is 4 years old, and when she was about 2 years old, now she discovered walls. So she would write on things.
Oh my goodness!
And would constantly have it washed. And this creator was like, look at this wall today. And they did this today here. Yesterday they did upstairs. And she's like, I'm so tired. Because why can't they choose one spot? And then she was like, anyway, there's this shopping towel. They sell these billboards that you can peel and place on the wall. Ebu, come and see. This is what I did on the kitchen. So I can constantly move it. And I've told them this is the best way this is the best way your writing will show up in this black space. And she had this brim of those black things, and I called my sister and I was like, let's order it. Now.
And you're not even the parent.
I'm not the parent.
Yeah, you just saw it. Exactly.
I'm adjacent. So that's what it is, right? A very, what you'd consider a very whatever product. But she had a good story around it.
True.
And a very authentic story around it. Yeah.
Okay. And I think I would like to say probably our first ex-influencer with a proper following. How do you handle X? How do you handle X?
I don't read mentions.
No way.
I don't read mentions.
And how long has it taken you to build it to where it is today?
Maybe 13 years. 14 years.
Way.
Yeah. So, but I stopped reading mentions maybe in 2017. Yeah. Unless someone sends me a mention, then I'll judge if I need to react to it.
Yeah.
But I don't read mentions.
And why did you build
2017 was
why did you build the audience?
No, the audience was built off the blogging platform I had.
Really? It came naturally?
It came naturally, right?
Wow.
And it never stopped. So that was based on that. Then in 2017, it was a very decisive, a crazy election season. And it was madness. Like it was possibly, I think it was the first election where now the country was alive to digital activism.
Okay.
And it was madness. So, and I got into some situations. I was handling some parts of the election communication, and I was like, oh, I can't. If I continue reading this, I'll lose my mind.
Okay.
So I would put out and not read mentions. So
Okay.
and I moved on. So I would put out something, and if you come and find like 100 plus
Mhm.
on the notification, and I'll just click it and then move on.
Ah, oh my
I'm like,
God, what a coping mechanism.
I've said what I've said. I may and and fight amongst yourselves by yeah.
Fanyeni kenye mtafanya.
I'm like, no, I don't read mentions.
What?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So
I
that's how I
didn't
cope.
think it was natural. I thought it was actually intentional. So it came
No,
naturally.
yeah, I've never, and I never changed. The handle has never changed. The name of the profile has never changed. Yeah, and it continues to grow, which shocks me because I took 2 years, a 2 year break from the platform.
Oh.
Yeah, so and I was like, okay, then I went back. I went back sometime October, November last year.
Ah, nice.
Actively went back.
Okay.
Yeah. But I'm not still to the levels of activity I had before that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah.
So important note: if you have fatigue and you need a break, take it.
Yeah, no, take the break. Take the
Take the
break.
break.
It's because you're constantly bombarded with multiple things. One of the ways I take a break from the internet is I knit.
Oh,
And
that's
I was
nice.
telling a friend of mine wants to see me on Sunday, and I was telling her, so I have a knitting class from 11 to 2 because I want to learn crochet. She's like, surely, why knitting? And I was like, that's how I'm able to not be constantly online, because if you're knitting, your hands are, you're busy, you're occupied. So
yeah.
it 2-3 hours a day or 2 hours a weekend, perfect. Especially if I feel like there's information overload, there's a lot of things, you're constantly being bombarded. I don't have notifications on any of my apps. So unless I open the app, I don't see it. So you have to get into a sense of digital cleanse. What is that cleanse that you're constantly pursuing? Yeah, and once you get into a habit of it, of not being always informed,
Yeah.
it works wonders. Then you're able to then find quality as opposed to quantity
Oh wow.
with your information.
No, that's true.
Yeah.
And then what was the thought process behind IG then?
No,
Or
IG
how did IG come to be?
IG came off that blogging season as well.
Really?
But then IG was locked for a very long time. So
Okay.
I wasn't really like looking at growing it. And I was a very private person. Like my IG has, I post maybe a feed, maybe once in a while. Like if I see something, oh, this is nice, and I post it. But Insta stories I'll post, and I post like almost a day in the life consistently.
Yes, you do.
So and you rarely see other people on my IG. So I'm not I don't document most of the people in my life because I still have that mentality that they need to opt in to my life, my lifestyle. So yeah, so IG, and I it got to a level where I was like, oh my God, this is so many people. So I would be like, okay, I used to overthink. I'm like, I'd post something. I'm like, I see the reaction. I see 40 messages. I'm like, oh no, it's getting too much attention.
Again, here we go.
So I put in all these filters of how people can react to it.
Oh.
Yeah. So I have my inbox is quite clean because then there's so many restrictions on and most of my stories actually you can't respond to them. So I just put them out. Like if I see something nice and I know it's going to disappear in 24 hours.
Okay.
So it's no longer a liability for me. So after 24 hours, you can't find it. Yeah. So Phil would text me and say, the other day on your Insta stories, I saw something. And what's the name of the shop again? I'm like, when was this? I didn't know how to use IG, by the way. I didn't know about.
I like that.
I didn't know about archived stories.
Yeah.
Until Jan.
This year.
Someone is asking me about something, and I was like, oh my gosh, I don't know. They're like, but you posted it on Insta story, right? Yeah. You can find the post on your archived stories. I'm like, oh. I didn't know. Even that's why my friends make fun of me because I take very bad photos because I don't pay attention to it. I take a photo and I post. Whether you look like you just woken up, that's your problem. I've posted and I've moved on.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
So the other thing that of course we were talking about was your mortgage journey that you shared on IG.
Yeah.
Like, why did you choose to share it? Like,
So it's because it kept coming up
okay.
consistently.
It was something you had opened up about before. Sorry to interrupt.
So what happened was I used to live in town.
Okay.
And so when I was moving, I made this whole ruckus about moving to the village because technically I live in the village. And then I started some passion points I'd repressed now were able to be realized. I now got into a love of plants and grass. In fact, a very close friend some time back was like, the way you invested in your grass and the way you document it needs to be studied. I'm like, this grass. So that those things now, then things like cooking. I never used to cook when I was in Hurlingham. I never used to cook.
Yeah.
So I started cooking for people, got all these recipes, So I host a lot. So I have people constantly coming to my house. We sit, I cook, we sit on the dining table, we sit outside,
Yeah.
have a good time. So because of that, people would always ask me, how did you get this place? What was the journey like? And it kept coming up, and I kept ignoring it until someone sent me a long message and said, if you don't want to tell people, and I know it comes up, just tell me. Just tell me. And I was like, okay. Yes. I was like, okay, I'll do it. And I did a series. I wanted to get as many questions as possible. So I did an Ask Me Anything.
Yeah.
Which I hate doing.
Yeah.
Because there's so many people, there are people who I don't think wake up with the best brains they have. So they ask you very crazy things. And now I don't know how to look at this person anymore the same way because I'm like, what? So I did an Ask Me Anything, and I had all these questions. And actually what I did was they come up in a box in your notifications. I didn't know that. So I'm like, okay. I click on it and I'm like, what are we going to do? This is a quagmire. This is too much work. As they're like 300 plus things. I was like, okay. So I decided to choose to bucket them.
Okay.
Into, and a lot of them were on a mortgage process.
On the house. Yeah.
So, and one of my clients actually was there, and he kept saying he sent it on that Ask Me Anything box, sent it on DM, sent it on text. I said, okay, sour, I will do it. So I did the live, and I was like, halfway recording it, doing it, I was like, I can't. I said everything. It was at night, and I gave people the whole master plan. Then I realized, oh shit, I can't save it. So then our conversation. So I thought I would save it to my phone.
No, you have to post it. Yeah, IG makes you post it. It's very annoying.
Posted it. Then I was like, oh no, this can't be in the public domain. And I deleted it. So there was no reference point for a very long time. So I was like, okay, now, yeah.
Okay.
And here we are.
Okay.
Yeah.
So walk us through what you are able to walk us through, like how you chose the house, what it took. Because most people don't buy through mortgages, by the way. Kenya has a thing. Kenyans are very afraid of mortgages.
Well, it's not just mortgages, it's debt.
Actually,
yes.
No. The other debts, they are not scared of.
Yeah.
The fulizas,
and
the mobile ones, they are not scared
there's this whole thing of, well, if you can afford debt, take it. It's other people's money. Remember, a lot of companies are actually built on other people's money. They're built on debt, right? And you walk through, if your product is solid, you walk through that journey and you will recover from that debt eventually and turn your profit. So if you can afford the debt, take it, especially if the deal is very good for you at that circumstance. I got into this situation. So I first saw the house on Instagram.
Okay.
And I told my friends, "Oh my God, have you seen this?" And we all agreed these are renders. This can be true.
Yeah.
So one June morning, we drove down and saw the place.
Yeah.
The road to the place was horrid, like horrid. And we're like, huh, okay. And we got lost at some point, and we asked the rider, "Do you know this place?"
Yeah.
And he said, sasa venye mtafanya rudi kwa tamak, alafu mwende hivo mchape 8 bumps, then turn right.
Yeah.
And he was correct. And we get there, there's practically no road. So, but once we got to the gate and we drove in, we're like, oh, this is interesting.
Yeah.
It's like an oasis in the middle of nowhere.
Yeah.
And we looked at it, we looked around. The next week, my friend and her mom, we also went down with her to now see the place as well.
Yeah.
At this point, I'm just like, "Ugh, whatever." And it's COVID. This is now deep in COVID. 2020 June. And we were like, I wasn't really into the decision. But then July rolls in. I tell my mom, by there, this is place I saw, and I show her photos.
Yeah.
We took a video for my mom's friend. So I was showing my mom that video. And she's like, oh, this is nice. And I was like, okay, cool. Then August rolls in. I'm still not so sure. Then towards the end of the month, I was like, let me speak to my bank and see whether it's possible.
Yeah.
Spoke to my then RM, amazing person. I'm still so sad that she left that institution. Because she was like my, she's literally was my mshwari. I'd call her and say, hey, my friend, favor thing. And she's like, don't worry, we'll sort it out. And that relationship was really important because we had it for a very long time. So she just started doing the math, and she's like, actually, you can afford it.
Okay.
You can afford it. Then she was like, now these 2 investments we have here, let's liquidate them.
Okay.
And that's when I learned the value of having assets that you can liquidate quite quickly. Yes. I've never been a land person. Let's buy land, all these things. Because I find it's so hard to dispose of land. And for me, I was able to dispose everything in a matter of just several emails to say, paperwork signed, done. Then I had, and she advised, let's not get a full mortgage, let's get a partial investment into it, let's get equity into the house. So I was able to then liquidate, get equity to the house, then get an offer letter. So the mortgage process is, you see the house, speak to the developer. If you're getting a full mortgage, if you're married by there, apparently, or not apparently, you get better. It's favorable terms because the risk is not as high because you're sharing it.
If you're both working, or
If you're
even
both-
if one of you is
if you're
working.
both working,
Okay.
so it's a much better arrangement. So you get the developer will send you an offer letter, pass the offer letter to the bank. Mine, I had to first put a deposit to the developer. Then the developer would then write in the offer letter that I've put in this amount of money into the arrangement. Then the bank now takes it over from there.
Okay.
Then there's the legal process, obviously. Now there's a lot of paperwork that I had to deal with. Thankfully, because it was during COVID, my friend had just concluded a similar arrangement, and he's a lawyer. So I went to, all the paperwork was delivered to my house, and the next day, early morning, I passed by Mug and Bean, bought them breakfast, him and his wife, and he went to his house, and we went through everything. And because for him, he's a lawyer, he's done it, he done this transaction recently. So it was, for me, not to fully understand what is this I'm getting into.
True.
Signed it, sent it back. Maybe 2-3 weeks later, I now start the actual process, which now there was the legal bit, the taxes. I remember I was paying my taxes in January of 2021, the duty and the legal fees.
That's the duty, people. It's not a joke. That one.
In fact, when I got the fee note, I was like,
yeah. I was also shocked by that one.
I was like,
Yeah.
That was steep.
Yes.
In fact, I was like, wow, okay. I mean, so far the process has been,
Eish.
there was a deposit that was like, okay, maybe that was I knew about the stamp duty because thankfully my RM had sent me a very detailed breakdown of what I
Ah,
need to put aside.
okay.
And that stamp duty, I used to think, maybe maybe it changes.
Okay.
And then the legal fee, I was thinking, maybe also things can change.
Yeah.
Oh, hey. I was like, yo, I'm broke.
It stood on business.
I was like, okay, now. And I was coming from a 1-bedroom house to a 4-bed.
Wow.
And I'm not a fan of constantly iterations. So I needed everything done in one go.
Okay.
And we ended up, so January rolls in, I've put in the stamp duty, I've paid the legal fees, I get the keys in Feb.
Yeah.
I've been given a grace period.
Yes.
I start serving my notice. Then I start now making the iterations I need to make before I moved. And the first thing I did was tear down the garden,
Oh dear.
which was a mistake I cannot repeat ever again if I was to be in an arrangement where I'm moving to a bigger house or whatever it is.
Yeah.
I can only tear down the garden maybe 6 months before I move in.
Yeah.
Because when I moved in, the grass was still, like baby locks. That ugly
Yeah.
period when you have
Yeah.
baby locks. So bad. It was so crazy to deal with. In hindsight, I should have done it when I got the keys to the house.
Yes.
I waited too long for me to start tearing down the garden, but now it's work. It's
Okay.
perfect garden because I was able to do what I wanted to do. But now that's something else. Also, I didn't plan very well with my notice period and when I'd move.
Ah, yes.
So literally the day before I moved, we were still doing things in the house. I had cleaners, curtains are not being put up,
Yeah.
some electrical works are not being done, some lights, If I think it's just some beds had not arrived. So I moved in and it was too stressful.
Okay.
I should have given myself time to breathe. I was thinking, I can do it myself. Then I didn't take leave when I was doing this. I used to commute every weekend to go and
you're in Mashinani?
I'm in Mashinani to supervise.
Oh
And that
my.
position was bullshit because I'd get there at like 2. Find guys. And you're paying them
Per day.
per
Yeah.
day.
That's true.
And that liquidity I was draining. I felt like I was, just pouring money down every single day. Someone would say, wait, the way this will cost 2.5. And I'm like, 2.5?
Ulikuwa umefikwa hapa.
I should have planned that transition better.
Yeah.
But I'm happy now that it's ended up working.
Okay.
And one philosophy that I learned from that is invest in quality. And that's why I was doing it all at once.
Okay.
But maybe some of the things I shouldn't have gotten when I moved. But it's in the past. Now I know better. But invest in quality so that you have things for the long term. And then so far the mortgage journey has taught me that I need get into a culture of maintenance. So you don't fix it when it's broken. When it starts breaking, that's when you start making the fixes. Because mistakes can end up becoming very, very costly in the long run. Recently, because of those heavy rains, my roof started leaking. And when I saw the, how the patch
The
of
patch.
yeah, and I was like, what is this? So I quickly called the caretaker and he's like, oh, your roof is leaking. I was like, yeah. So he's like, but no. This doesn't seem like it's serious. It will, whatever, the rains and you are going. And I remembered that, roofs can, because part of that section is what's called gypsum boards.
Okay.
And I was like, so one day this thing might collapse.
True.
Yeah. I was like, no. So quickly got, someone to come in, give me a quote. Now, one thing I've also done over the years is insurance. I insure everything. Even the spoons in my house have insurance because I learned from a very simple, a lady called Lillian. She was like, listen, we spend so much time working towards being rich, working towards being wealthy, and these things can be wiped out in an instance.
Facts.
and all this wealth can go, all these riches can go, and you're back to zero, right? So insurance is protecting your hard work. People look at it as insurance is stealing
It's
from
optional.
me. It's optional. You're actually protecting the hard work. You're protecting the hard work, the time that you've put in, the sweat and tears that you've put in is what you're protecting with insurance. So got the quote, standard procedure, notify them that my roof is leaking, sorted. That's not my problem. But if I'd waited for the roof to collapse, I would be in a completely different situation.
Yes.
Yeah. So get into a culture of maintenance, because there's no landlord you're calling here. If something breaks,
it's on you.
It's you.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you so much for sharing that. And I guess we now have to conclude, but okay. Me, I've enjoyed myself. But anyway, any advice you'd have for your younger self or the younger viewers, or from your experience, anything you look back upon and you're like, you could have done this different?
I guess it's for my younger self, things I would have done differently now. I would have invested more time into creating hobbies that are not industry specific. Things I'm trying to do now, I could have, taken time out of the party, because party never stops. In fact, when you grow older, it gets better. It's quality.
Yes, because there's the money.
There's money and there are options. There are options. Yes, yeah. So the hobbies I'm picking up now, maybe I could have spent a bit more time doing them now. The networks I should not have invested in, and the networks I should have invested in. The education bit, I feel like I could have gone back and completed, not for anything's sake, but just having not that, when you look up on a wall and you're like, this one is hanging, that's the hanging bit. But it's been complemented by other things, but maybe it should have. And obviously, the ability to learn from anyone. When I was way younger, I'd maybe focus too much on the older people that are mentoring me, and I left out maybe people would have my age, my peers, right? So I missed out for until I got to my 30s. I had missed out on being around young people for a very long time. All my friends were much, much older, so their problems sometimes could be very, very detached from my reality.
Okay.
So I should have maybe spent, but now I've caught up. I've been able to, create a solid network of people my age and younger as well. Because I have younger sisters, I have younger family. I'm able to feed off them and learn from them as well. Yeah, they're not completely indispensable.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you so much
You're
for your
welcome
time,
for
and
having
thank you,
me.
Frankie, for coming. I
You're
really do
welcome.
appreciate it. We're gonna keep in touch with Frankie.
Yes, please. Yes, please.
Yeah, but thank you so much.
Thank you for having me.
See you guys on the next one.
So that's why now when you hear the interns are really going through it, I really feel for them.
Yeah.
Because it's not a joke. The work that they do in the hospital, and I say interns literally run hospitals.
Sure.
Yeah. So you can't come and tell them that this is the pay you want to give them, because no, I think that's just doing a disservice to them.